One. And we are live. Guys, welcome to tonight's show. Ben Dorr here, Executive Director for Minnesota Gun Rights, coming at you live from the Minnesota Gun Rights headquarters in rainy Northfield, Minnesota. We got Chris Dorr, Board Chairman for Minnesota Gun Rights, and Representative Erik Mortensen.
The man
on the show tonight. The man, the only man in St. Paul who's worth a hoot and a holler. Let us know where you're watching from, everybody. Let us know where you're watching from. I see we're getting a few people on here. The legislative session adjourned. What is that? What time is that on Monday, Mort? It was like
2:30.
Yep. Yeah, 2:30. Somebody said it was going to go till midnight, but they knocked off at 2:30. So apparently, did I understand this right? No budget bills went to the governor by the time they closed session.
Nope, no budget bills. We're probably going to come back mid-June. I'm hearing June 14th.
Well, dandy. Oh, these people can't get anything done. We have Garrett checking in from Virginia, Minnesota. My good friend Antonio checking in from White Bear Lake. We have Mark from Hayfield. That guy is a patriot. We have Lonnie in Babbitt, Minnesota. Jesse in Thief River Falls. Guys, let us know where you're watching from. So session is over. No gun control bills passed in 2021. That makes, for Minnesota gun rights members, what is that, 9 years running, 10 years running? Oh, we have Jake checking in from Lake Crystal. We have Tony in St. Paul, Dave. There's a lot of great people on here tonight. So no gun control bills passed. No pro-gun bills have passed either. But, of course, that's become kind of the standard for Republican politicians in Minnesota. This makes, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 that we have had a Republican Senate majority, and they have never so much as voted on a single pro-gun bill in all of those years. So if you've got a go ahead.
And didn't Democrats, weren't they largely responsible for previous pro-gun legislation? I mean,
yeah. We got suppressors, capital carry, and all the rest of that when we had Democrats in charge of the Senate. So thank you, Senate Democrats, for passing the largest expansion of gun rights in Minnesota so far.
Here's to you, Senator Latz.
what the hell?
So, Mortensen, were there all kinds of people standing up in St. Paul this year calling for passage of pro-gun bills, stand your ground, things like that? Did you see anybody shouting in caucus about now's the time to hammer on these things for the people?
No, of course not. I mean, it was, the gun activity all revolved around the omnibus bills and those typical sort of phony pro-gun Republicans like a Jim Nash that has this reputation to being this pro-gun guy. He forces the votes on like a stand your ground when they're in the minority, right? And they know it's dead. Right. But when they're in the majority for 4 years, including when Nash was there, nobody brings forward stand your ground. Everybody just knows it's hush hush, kill it. Nobody wants it to advance. Nobody wants to talk about it. But when they're in the minority, they're tough guys.
Funny, Chris, you and I talked to Tiny Biceps Nash in the state office building. What was that, 2017, 2018, when we had a Republican majority in the House, and we said, Little Biceps, why don't you put stand your ground law on the floor for a vote? Why don't you force the vote and get this done for the people? We know you have the votes. You do have like a huge Republican majority in here. Why don't you do it? And he just shouted in our face, fakers, frauds. And he just like kind of lost his mind. Well, now that the Democrats have control and they don't have the votes to pass any pro-gun bills, then he gets up there and goes, look at me forcing votes for the gun owners because I'm pro-gun. It's the game, it's the sham that has been happening.
Yeah,
it is the fraud. It's the scam that's been done, that's been foisted on the people of Minnesota for years and years now. And that's why a lot of people in St. Paul don't get along with Minnesota gun rights. That's why, frankly, a lot of people in St. Paul don't get along with you, Erik, because you don't go along with the scam.
Right. It's because I called them out. Like I literally just did. I mean, when have you ever heard another elected official call out somebody who's also in the state house at the same time? And I know I haven't heard it. And so I think that's very different, but I'm convinced like time is running out to save our country. Socialism is at the door, knocking on the door. They're about to hand out checks in 2 months to people, and they're starting this universal basic income. But the establishment Republicans, and I think the establishment Republicans just grew by a number of 4 in the last couple of days. They have decided, no, we just need to, hold hands and build a coalition of fake Republicans that never take action for years, but somehow that's their solution. And I think we need to stop tiptoeing around it and actually take some bold action, because the people across the state are dying for people to take bold action in the Capitol.
Hell yeah. There's 2 people that I know of in recent memory and currently who have done what you're doing right now. Like you just said, whoever calls out people in their own party for being fake, frauds, weak, and not doing what they say they're going to do. One.
And hold before you say it. And this is something that, like, our members and supporters believe in 100% all the time. They're like, name the names. It's something you hear all the time in conservative politics. Name the freaking names. And you're a state representative. You're telling us that you've never heard anybody else do it. So there you have it, folks. Straight from the horse's mouth.
Name the names. That's what Eric did. You know who else does that? Donald J. Trump. He did a lot of that, and he wrecked the faith in the establishment politicians who have been destroying America for decades, both in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, in both parties. You know who's doing it right now in Congress? Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's another person who's not afraid to call out when Republicans aren't actually being Republicans or being a bunch of freaking RINOs. And right here in Minnesota, we have one of our own, Erik Mortensen, who's doing the exact same thing. And we thank you for that, because it's those moves right there. It's those actions right there are the only thing that can lead to a restoration of Minnesota, to a fixing of our state that has gone further left. I guess on camera it'd be this way, left, down into the dumps of a socialist nightmare like you were just talking about. So again, thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand the reason that nobody does this, and it's pretty obvious, I would think. Oh, now you've got less light. Oh, man. Now I'm really dark. But it's not a popular thing to do, right? I mean, calling these guys out, they hate it. They can't stand it. They'd rather live in the shadows and have no sunlight shine on their actions. And that's why nobody does it, because if you do it, you don't have friends. You don't have friends in the Capitol. And everybody cares about being liked. That's what the politicians care about, is please just adore me. That's what they want. And if they're disliked, then they can't stand it. And I don't care if I have friends in the Capitol, because I'm trying to align myself with the grassroots conservatives. And I think that's where the real political power exists. It's not a bunch of politicians in the Capitol.
Oh, I think it's fair to say, and I think everybody watching this video would agree, that things are not good in the Minnesota legislature. The direction of the state is not good. It's not healthy. In other words, it's sick. There's something wrong with it. Something needs to change. And
cancer.
In the course of everybody's normal life, when you get sick, well, ignoring the disease or feeding the disease, or gobbling down sugar or pounding Mountain Dews when you have some disease going on or some infection, it doesn't help the problem. Ignoring the problem never works. It never works. And so what you're saying essentially is you're pretty much the only person in the entire legislature who is like, look, we've got a problem here. We need to fix it. We need to take actual steps. We need to identify and name the problems so that we can fix it and then move forward.
Well, isn't that the way you actually drain the swamp, right? You need to know who's in it. And then the people, most importantly, they need to know who's in it, and they need to be empowered with that information so they can hold them accountable, because we don't have to. I was talking to a gal today in my district, and she was saying, well, conservatives were strong and we turn out, but we turn out at the last minute. And my point to her was that's the problem. We can't turn out on election day. We need to get involved well before that. We need people to go out to caucuses and have the ability to influence who's actually on the ballot on election day, because we don't have to settle for the lesser of two evils. We can work way upstream and primary these guys and show them that their seat is not comfortable. It's not a guarantee.
That's something we've said here for all these years. Is the one thing that these people can't stand in St. Paul. It's the truth getting out. It's angry voters in their district learning about what these people did or did not do, and then the pain that they feel at election time. Sometimes it costs them their seat. Sometimes it means they have to work really, really, really hard to get back into office, and they remember that pain. Kind of, you know how when your dad used to give you a walloping for being a naughty brat? Some people remember that. You sit down, it hurt to sit down a little bit. We want these legislators, if they make it back there, we want them to sit down gingerly into their chair and remember the last time they got a spanking from the people of Minnesota and actually behave better.
Well,
that's what we're trying to do here.
And it can be done. I mean, it's really not even that difficult. It takes some gumption to stand up and do it, but and it works, because here's a great story. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this in any of these videos, but it was a couple weeks ago. I had Munson called me and said, hey, some of the members of the old House Republican caucus, they're getting phone calls from their supporters, their voters. They're getting phone calls from their donors, and they're pissed off. And he positioned this to me like it was a bad thing. And I said, that is a beautiful thing. That is the entire point, is to make sure they have the information to hold them accountable, because that way they can't just cower to leadership. They have to cower to their constituents as well. So they have to decide which master are they going to serve, Kurt Dowd or leadership, or their constituents.
So he calls you up, tells you that your tactics have been successful, that you're making progress on the problems that are wrong with the state of Minnesota. And then, so what was his was his course of action? Say, I want to help you. I want to join with you.
Right.
Let's do this all together. Force multiply.
That would have been nice. It would have been nice if they had realized that if they really wanted to, because of course the new House caucus all rallies around their disgust of Kurt Dowd. That's what they have in common, is they hate the guy, and they can't seem to grasp the fact that if they want to take action against Kurt Dowd and remove his ability to have influence, this is the way to do it. It's to make his loyalists question who they're loyal to, and to sort of control that narrative, and get people excited about what we're doing that want to join us at the Capitol. So that's how we were to grow that caucus. But no, they didn't see that and get behind it. They gave me an ultimatum that was essentially, you either put a muzzle on your mouth or we're going to kick you out of the caucus.
Hold on. So the old House Republican, the regular corrupt establishment House Republican caucus calls we should call it something else there, calls the neutered House Republican caucus now, and they say, you guys got to put a muzzle on the guy who's finally forcing us to answer for our corruption, or else what? We're not going to be nice to you anymore.
Yeah. They weren't going to be their friends. They weren't going to help them out with little things in there. I mean, it's funny that they don't see the fact that the way that they're being treated and the way that they were treating me is essentially the same thing that I'm trying to empower the people across the state to treat all politicians. And they're saying that my tactics are bad, making this conflict or creating some sort of confrontation between voters and their elected officials is a bad thing. But they put an ultimatum on me because it came from ultimately the other caucus, and that's what happened.
I'm kind of at a loss for words. We've known people like Drazkowski and Munson and Kalbar, and Jeremy, not Jeremy. I keep thinking Jeremy Miller, but he's in the Senate. Timothy Miller.
Tim
I mean, they're kind of a joke. You make a joke about it because they're kind of a joke. We've known a lot of them for a lot of years. We've had conversations with them. We've talked with them in the Capitol. We've tried to get them to be, just try to be a little bit strong.
This is like Kalbar, for example. His big thing that he always told us when we were involved, in the early portions of his campaign, when we were kind of doing some issue discussion in the district, he told us in like every single conversation he ever had, he's like, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to piss in their Wheaties. He kept saying that. I'm going to piss in their Wheaties. And now
he probably said that 30 times, not even lying.
If 30, if he said it once, and probably more like 75. But now, like, here comes Erik Mortensen. I mean, and no pissing never. I mean, sorry if that's a crass term. It's also biblical, but no pissing never happened. It just never happened. But then now finally we've got somebody who comes along and says, okay, we have all these examples, Marjorie Greene, Donald Trump, of saying, okay, time to throw out the rules. Time to throw out the rules. The rules are constructed to keep the power establishment in place. Mortensen comes along, says, screw it. We're throwing out the rules. It's time to go to the people. The power is with the people.
Yep.
And you actually started pissing in their Wheaties, because the old corrupt House caucus called the neutered House Republican caucus and said, he's pissing in our Wheaties. Stop him. And so what did let me ask you this. What did the other people do in the new House Republican caucus? Tell me they at least said, you know what? I promised people I was going to piss in their Wheaties. You're finally doing it. I'm with you now, brother.
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, Cal Barr started screaming at me in this restaurant and blaming me for things that I didn't even do. And he was, like, what's the word I'm looking for? He was
weak,
defending these guys, like vehemently defending them and saying, you have to be friends with these guys. And you're right. The whole state house is what I've come to call an incumbent protection racket. Like these rules you're referring to, it's all designed to protect the people that are there, to keep them in their positions of power in which they want to do nothing with, right? I think people need to know that they want to do nothing, because as soon as they do something, if they do something, they piss
somebody's mad
and they don't want to piss anybody off.
That has been the problem this entire time. That is the problem right there. These people up there, Republican and Democrat, what they want more than anything. So when I sit here and I go, what do I want more than anything? For me personally, I go, well, I want stand your ground law to be law in Minnesota. I want the Second Amendment Preservation Act to become law, so that Joe Biden can't force any of his federal gun control on the state of Minnesota. I want taxpayer funding for abortions. I want abortions ended in Minnesota. I want my children's futures protected. I think these things these are the things that I think most people, Joe and Ryan and Bob and Bill and Dan, who are watching this video right now, they're thinking the same thing. What do they want to see happen in Minnesota, come out of St. Paul? These are the things normal people think about. And none of these things enter the minds of the politicians in St. Paul. They don't look at policy as something that can give freedom back to the people, that can safeguard the future for their kids and their grandkids. They don't think about those things. They go, this little bill or this little relationship, this incestuous little thing that I have going on here with all of these other members of this caucus, this is all good for my career. And I was a great big loser before I ever got into politics. Now I'm in St. Paul. Now I'm a politician. Now I'm important. Now I've got a name badge. Now I've got a desk. And that makes me somebody, by God. And they will protect that position at all costs. And the cost is Minnesota. The cost is our future. The cost is our Second Amendment rights. The cost is all of this socialism and this crap that's being ushered in the door. And the Republican Party in Minnesota as a party doesn't have the balls or the morals to stand up and say, we're not signing off on that. We do not agree with that. We're going to fight that tooth and nail. They sign off on it. They sign off on it. They sign off on it. So then what happens? A couple of Republicans get angry. They say, we don't like this very much. We don't like what Kurt Dowd is doing. Good. We don't like it either. So what do? They split off. They call themselves a new House Republican caucus. It's 4 guys: Steve Drazkowski, Jeremy Munson, Timothy Miller, and Cal Barr. And what happens? They go, oh, we got to get some more people in here. We're the resistance. We're the resistance. So what happens? An election happens. And what happens? Erik Mortensen gets elected into office. He now represents Shakopee. and he's introduced a slew of phenomenal bills. He's introduced the Second Amendment Preservation Act. He's introduced a real stand your ground bill. He introduced the Never Again bill that takes away governors' power to shut our state down and destroy Minnesota. A lot of wonderful things have happened under Erik Mortensen. And so what does he do? He joins the new House Republican caucus because they are supposed to be the resistance. They are the ones who are neither lovers of Democrats or the RINO class. They are supposed to be the ones truly fighting for Minnesota. Mortensen gets up there. It's the end of your very first legislative session, Erik. And during that time, he sees all the lies. He sees all the scamming. He sees all of the fakeness that exists in St. Paul. And instead of going, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, I'm not going to say a word about this. I've got friends up here, people I need to protect. We're going to protect these people. Instead, he goes, it's this crap. I've got children. They have to live here. I'm probably going to have grandchildren. They're going to have to live here. If I don't tell the truth about what's happening, Minnesota is toast. And I know it's not going to make me a lot of friends, but I'm going to do it anyway. So you told the truth. That's all that's happened here. You told the truth about both the Democrats and the Republicans who are stabbing the people in the back. And instead of Steve Drazkowski, Jeremy Munson, Cal Barr, Tim Miller, instead of those people having your back and saying, rock freaking on, Erik, we got you, man, we got your back, we're moving forward as a caucus, we're going to have the grassroots behind us and in front of us and all around us, and together we're going to surge forward and start taking back Minnesota politics. That was the hope. That was the prayer. Instead, those people have tossed you out of their caucus because they were so damn concerned about protecting their relationship with sissies and sallies like Eric Lucero and Glenn Greenhagen and Jim Nash and the rest of these people. They were more concerned about their own political futures than the future of Minnesota. That's what happened 2 days ago.
Wow. Well, I got to follow that. I feel like,
I didn't mean to go in a monologue there. I apologize, but I wanted everybody to realize, to piece it all together in their minds, exactly what's happened here. This betrayal of you is a betrayal on the people.
Yeah.
They're tossing you out of the caucus. They're saying we don't want anything to do with him anymore. Is them saying we don't want anything to do with gun owners anymore. We don't want anything to do with pro-lifers anymore. We don't want anything to do with conservatives anymore. These people we don't care about. What we do care about is the politicians. What we do care about is our own office and our own ability to get reelected. That's what they care about, and they made it perfectly clear when they said, we don't want anything to do with you, Erik.
Yeah, I mean, when you started that off, you're talking about everybody wants something, right? And then for me, my big desire is to preserve liberty for my kids. I want them to have as much, if not more, liberty than what I've enjoyed for my 42 years here so far. And when I'm forcing votes, like on the Never Again bill, I'm trying to get a roll call vote, and they're blocking, the establishment of Republicans block the roll call vote on the Never Again bill. And you know, that upsets me, but it's not that it's an attack on me. And so when I lash out and say, well, hey, here's the 11 Republicans that are on video refusing to raise their hands so that the people across the state can know who voted and how they voted, because that's what a roll call vote is. For people who don't know, it's on the record versus a voice vote. And all we got was a voice vote out of it. So nobody in the state knows how their elected officials voted on the bill that all three candidates for the Republican governor that have been announced have said that's the bill that we have to have. And two of them have signed a pledge saying, I will make that the first bill I sign into law if elected. And so when I'm defending that bill and calling these people out, I felt like, of course, I was defending myself, but bigger than that, I was defending my caucus that I thought was going to have my back. And of course, way bigger than that, I was defending the people across the state. But the caucus decided to betray me and ultimately betray the people that I was trying to defend. And they sided with the swampy caucus, as they call them.
I mean, I've heard it from them many times, you know, that what they want is to build up this neutered House Republican caucus. This is what they want. They want to bring more members in. They want to spread their name around. They want people to realize and get on board and help make them a powerhouse, right? Heard it from all of them at one point or another, to some degree or another. And when you became a member of the new House Republican caucus, for the first time since it was even born, that started to happen. People, the grassroots, started saying, oh, hell yes, we love this. Finally, some people in St. Paul who are fighting for us. People like Jeremy Munson kind of jumped on board, and all of a sudden people were getting super amped about what the new House Republican caucus was doing. You were doing exactly what they said they wanted to do. And they tossed out the only person who was actually turning the neutered House Republican caucus into a lion. And now they've gone back to being kittens. They've gone back to being irrelevant. No different than the old House caucus. Because the relationships...
Yeah, what I want to add to that is I guarantee, because I've been seeing messages from people in both caucuses, and I guarantee both caucuses now think, well, now that Erik's alone, well, now, he's going to back down. Well, I am more energized than ever, and I am chomping at the bit to get back down into session here as soon as possible. I mean, if they've gotten this upset with what I've done so far, oh boy. Just wait until I see what I have in store. People
thought that once the president-elect got into the White House, that Donald J. Trump would go away as well. All the news stories were saying, "Oh yeah, it's the death of the Trump Republican Party." And then people also thought the same thing when they took Marjorie Taylor Greene off of her committees in Congress. Yeah, turns out she's become the worst nightmare to the squad, including the wonderful Ilhan Omar. And well, it seems like you're in good company.
It's true. And that's the thing. That's the thing these politicians always rejected in Minnesota and in St. Paul. And this is probably the biggest point I've tried to drill home with legislators that I talked to up there, from Paul Gazelka to Kurt Dowd and so many others who I've had meetings with over the years and talked with. That's the main thing I always tell them. Look, it's not about what happens in this building. It's not about the coalitions of politicians that you build here. The way you win elections, the way you win freedom, far more importantly, but it's a double-edged sword. It works. It helps them in every way. The way you win elections and win freedom is to go to the people on the outside of the Capitol building. All these counties, all these people, all these patriots, these Minnesotans, these Americans, these red, white, and blue freaking amazing people who populate the state, they are the ones who give power, and they are the ones who take away power. Right. And so I have told that to dozens and dozens and dozens of politicians in St. Paul over the last 5 or 6 years. Stop this game in here. Go to the people outside. Tell them what you're doing. Show them what you're doing. Stand up for them. Fight for them. And the people will fight for you. And so now these politicians who have rejected that entirely went, Mortensen's on the outs. Now he has no power here. The truth is, when you're fighting for the people and the people have your back, you have all the power. And a person should, an organization should, people should, who are fighting for the people. So we reject that philosophy entirely. And if anything, you've been freed up to fight for the people, and clearly the people appreciate the hell out of that.
Yeah, we should be fighting for the people, not for the politicians. That's what I put on Facebook a couple days ago, and I fully believe in that, because I think that's the biggest distinction. These guys, I think it's their ego has them thinking that all of this political power and all this influence sits inside the Capitol building. And that's why that's how they can grow their influence, is by connecting with these other politicians. When I'm saying, no, the people have the power. We should be aligning with the people across the state. And the people then, if they have the right information, they'll hold the politicians accountable. They will make sure the politicians do their bidding, whether or not the politicians are all buddies or not. And I preached that to these guys, and tried to lay it out that would be a successful plan to, one, grow the caucus that they say they want to grow, and two, have long-term meaningful change across the state. But they think the answer is just protect the politicians and take their side.
It kind of bespeaks a level of political, for lack of a better term, disintelligence, doesn't it? When I mean, if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result the second time, somebody who has been in the legislature since Minnesota became a state, like Drazkowski has, I mean, if he keeps banging his head against the political brick wall of stupidity and expecting different results, that I'm going to work with these corrupt people, I'm going to work with that corrupt person, we're going to go get freedom back by working with that corrupt loser or that gigolo over there, I'm going to go work with that gigolo, and that's going to get freedom back in this state. How stupid, how totally brain dead must you be in order to keep banging your head against the wall of stupidity?
I know. And in the meantime, the people get screwed over and over and over.
Exactly.
We've gotten decades, if not 100 years of history that shows we are losing the conservative movement. We are losing our state and country. Why would you keep trying to do things the same way? But
well,
exactly.
I mean, the only conclusion to that, because Chris, you and I, we had this discussion with Steve a couple of years ago. The only conclusion you can come to is maybe it's stupidity, or maybe they just don't care. Maybe Steve Drazkowski, who's been there for like 14 years, maybe he wants to be there for 16 years, 18 years, 20 years. Maybe Steve just wants
to be there forever, Mort.
No, I've already pledged. And people hate when I say this. I know the people who are super supportive of me hate when I say it, but now I'll get people, saying, why did you say this? But I've already pledged that I would serve 3 terms. I would term limit myself.
We're gonna kick your ass if you try to do that.
We're gonna talk you out of that one.
I'm sorry, but we'll be on you
allowed.
like ants on a spilt snow cone, as Roy D. Mercer would say.
Not allowed. Don't say that stuff on here. Tell all the truth, but not that one.
Come on.
Well, hey, I'm a believer.
Oh, but it's true. People like Steve Drazkowski just want to retire in office. People like Cal Barr, he's got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
He's got nothing else going on. I mean, literally, he's got nothing else going on in his life. These people just want to retire up there as politicians. So that's why they do the same thing over and over and over again. They don't actually build coalitions and pass good policy. I mean, we've been working in this state for years and years and years now, and we've not seen the great Steve Drazkowski and his expert level of maneuvering inside the Capitol return crap for the people. It hasn't returned anything at all in 14 years. So don't tell me that is your great goal, neutered House Republican caucus, because that goal has returned nothing for decades.
Yeah, well, and I think that's one of the things I've noticed of what's been different for me down there. And this is not my career. And I know there's all sorts of people in both caucuses and Democrats that have been accusing me of building up my name ID because I must be running for governor or higher office. And I just laugh at these people because I'm like, this doesn't define me. This isn't a career for me. I'm a business guy. And, unlike all these other guys, and I feel comfortable saying that now, and it's unfortunate, but I feel like all the other people there, their biggest fear is losing an election. My biggest fear is losing our country. And that's what dictates my behavior. But they dictate their behavior by fear of losing elections. And I think people must realize that. And the sooner they do, that defines everything. If you find yourself wondering, why did this politician do this thing? I guarantee you can tie that back to they thought it would affect their reelection.
Yeah. And some of it is actually far more juvenile than that. Take Cal Barr, for example. Here's a guy again who said he's going to go up there and piss in everybody's Wheaties. And he wasn't afraid of losing his election. He was afraid that somebody up there might not like him. And he told me this story one time, and I guess I'll say it here. How how the politicians up there were giving him the cold shoulder when he first got up there, and how he was just desperate for them to like him. And the moment they started to like him, that's when he decided that he wasn't going to do anything for the people of Minnesota anymore. He was supposed to introduce a stand your ground bill for Minnesota gun rights in 2017. He signed a pledge, a promise to do so, in writing to do so. And when we came to talk to him about it, he was so concerned that a couple of the politicians up there would not like him and would start giving him that cold shoulder again, that he totally refused to introduce the bill and do anything for the people of Minnesota.
He's like, you guys don't understand. I have to sit next to Jim Nash.
Oh, it was Jim Nash.
I have to sit next to Jim Nash. That was his reason why he didn't want to introduce the bill, because it would upset Jim Nash, Jim Nash is another state representative. He cannot physically cast a vote for or against Cal Barr. And he's literally one of the last people in the whole entire state and in the entire world that Cal Barr should be butt kissing or using as an excuse not to do what you campaign to do.
Yes. I can't tell you how often I think about that when I'm at the Capitol, and I know I'm doing things that is not popular, at least not popular in the Capitol, but I know the people appreciate it. And honestly, every time somebody reaches out, and I probably responded to 100 texts today from people thanking me. When I get that feeling of, man, is this the right thing to do? And then what's going to happen to me? It dawns on me, what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, there's a bunch of politicians here. They're not going to like me. If politicians don't like me, that's fine. I don't like them. So what's the loss? There's really no loss here. That's my mindset.
It's the only mindset to have. Honestly, I mean, if you're going to accomplish anything at all, it's the only mindset to have. So this is what people, like Cal and so many others, this is just where their brain goes. You want to sit there and go Cal, go Steve, go, and you want to cheer them on because they're up there fighting for liberty, as they say. The fact of the matter is, they're up there being turned by grade school silent treatment tricks by the dumbest child. I know it's the most childish, embarrassing. It's like, I don't know how you get to have gray hair on your head and be so terrified of what the guy next to you is thinking. I don't know how the hell that happens. Maybe I'm just wired. Maybe all of us maybe all these people watching, Jeff and Joe and Carrie and Jake, maybe we're all just wired a little bit different. But these politicians up there, they want to be reelected, and damn if they don't want to be best buddies with everybody else up there. It is the world's dumbest social club. That's what it is. It's a total social club. Yes. We've seen that many times, and you've talked about that before, Eric. These people want to keep their social circle in place more than they want to keep anything else. And you got in the way of that.
Yep. Yeah.
You were telling the truth about some of their friends in the old House caucus, the swampy caucus, and they would rather kick out the one person who actually joined their caucus as a staunch conservative, as a great patriot, somebody who wanted to fight for the people. they'd rather you go than you tell the truth about some of their friends in the old House caucus who have been screwing gun owners and voters and taxpayers for years.
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. In one of our meetings where these guys were begging me to stop shining a spotlight on the people and, the politicians betraying the people. Just don't tell the people. They just want to be hidden in the dark, in the shadows. And one of the guys, it was Tim Miller, he said, look, you got to understand, the things that you're doing, the other caucus, they stopped talking to me. And I'm just like, so does anybody have the bigger mission in mind here that we need to fight for our values? But instead it's, well, we're going to cave into them because they stopped talking to them. It's if anything, if people can take from that, that's how easily they can influence these politicians, because they're so thin-skinned that they will cave in just because somebody stopped talking to them. So the people.
This is red alert stuff right here.
Well, you know who's sitting here laughing the entire time? Kurt Doubt. Kurt Doubt.
Yeah.
Of course he is. Of course he is. He's sitting
I
here
would
going,
be too. I mean, I am kind of actually sitting here laughing at the level of stupidity that this neutered House Republican caucus operates under. I mean, it's laughable.
Look what happened here. People like Cal, people like Tim Miller. I mean, the neutered House Republican caucus tossed out a thoroughbred to keep a couple of three-legged donkeys in there. I mean, a couple of braying asses. That's what they got out of people like Tim and Cal and others. What the hell are you doing that for? You can't win any races without thoroughbreds, without people who can win it for you, okay? Three-legged donkeys don't win races. They carry around buckets of water, okay? They're good for nothing. They're good for nothing. And this is the big problem. This is the problem. And so, yeah, these people wanted to put up a bold front against the Rhino caucus. Well, these people showed their true colors and laid bare their hand at the card table, and they got nothing.
Honestly, I want to kind of keep telling some of this story because it was what is it? It's Wednesday. My goodness, it's been a long week already, but. So Monday morning, I get a call from Munson, and he's like, look, I just got to ask you one more time. Are you sure you're not going to stop beating up on individual Republicans? And I said, I will continue beating up on individual Republicans so long as they deserve to be beat up.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Right. And of course, he hates that answer because he wanted to be able to tell everybody that, okay, Mortensen's going to back down and he's going to, he's going to allow himself to be neutered. Like they seem to all just have accepted the fact that the other caucus has neutered them, and they just want me and expect me to do the same thing. And ultimately I said, look, sure, I'll stop doing it as soon as they don't deserve it, right? I mean, and I try to emphasize the point that they have control over it. If they sign on to bills, they give hands, they do things that they do for every other Republican in the Capitol, because it's important for people to remember that it wasn't me that started that. It was them attacking me all the way back to 2018 when they spent $30,000 against me, the Republicans. So they're the ones who started all this disaster.
I think you just said something very big there that should probably be slowed down and talked about or extrapolated just a little bit.
You do that.
So the neutered House Republican caucus is mad because you're calling out the people in the establishment fully corrupt Republican caucus, and they want you to play nice with them, even though that same caucus spent 30 grand, 30 large ones trying to keep you out of office from ever getting. They want you to kiss up to your political enemies. Folks, I don't know what kind of cuckold stuff that is, but that just is not appropriate in politics. It's totally not appropriate. When people do you dirty in politics, you got to remember it. You have to remember, and you can't make deals with those. You definitely can't chart a path back to freedom through those waters. You know, it says in the Bible, in John 8, I think it is, then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. What Erik has been saying here, now I'm kind of preaching. What Erik has been saying here is the God's honest truth. And what these neutered House Republicans are saying is, we're going to throw away the truth. We're not going to identify the problems anymore. We're going to try to work with this corrupt machine that has done its level best to make sure that Erik never got here, that other people like Erik will never get here, and somehow you have to agree to that if you want to stay in this caucus. Well, when it's put in those terms, I mean, honestly, when you just reminded me of that they spent money to keep you out, I mean, you had no choice. The principled thing to do, was
right. Well, imagine if Donald Trump, after he won in 2016, imagine if he just said, you know what, we're going to let bygones be bygones. We're going to forget about all of these people who try to take me out. We're going to forget about all of these RINOs. We're going to forget about all of this, and we're just going to do business as usual. If he had done that, he wouldn't be Donald Trump. We would not have had the last 4 years that we had. All of this freedom, all of this advancement of so many things, wonderful things that happened under President Trump. None of that would have happened if Donald Trump was the kind of man who went to Washington, D.C. and said, you know what, we're just going to pretend none of that happened. I'm here now.
If he'd have been like every other politician,
every other politician,
that was a joke. I wasn't serious. Let's just forget all that. Let's just get back to business as usual here.
And you know what's interesting, guys, is so that's the ultimatum that I was served with is either you stop banging these guys over the head and more importantly exposing how they're betraying their voters. And I think that's critically important for voters to know if they're going to be empowered to take action.
Yes.
So they're asking me to completely betray a campaign promise that I made. And they said, you either stop doing that or we kick you out of the caucus. And of course I chose, well, I guess you'll have to kick me out then because I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And so now what they're saying is,
let me ask you a clarification here.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you didn't ask them to remove you from their caucus?
No, I told them as recent as Saturday, I want to be a part of the caucus because I enjoy the staff and I think they have a good staff. So I made it very clear. In fact, they've got a recording. Munson recorded the call that I said, look, I want to be in the caucus because we have access to staff, but the whole caucus theme has been everybody does their own thing. We're all independent. We do our own thing. So I said, well, I'll stay to your theme. I'll do my own thing. Like But apparently everybody else can do their own thing except me. And so they offered me the ultimatum and I said, well, I'm not going to stop. And so they made the decision to kick me out. And now, of course, they're going to social media and saying, well, no, actually, you made the decision just because I declined their ultimatum. I mean, their twisted logic is it's shameless. I mean, it's shameful, actually. I can't believe that's what they're out there doing. But they made the decision and I think they're probably regretting it by now.
I mean,
well, they should be, honestly. Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're watching this video and maybe you've been getting the fundraising emails or whatever from the new House Republican caucus where they posit themselves as an alternative to the crooked establishment, corrupt, usual way of doing politics. If you've been getting that kind of stuff, if you've been reached out to by these people saying, hey, support us because we're trying to do this thing here. We're trying to grow. We're trying to get bigger. We're trying to push back against the radical left. That's why we're asking for your financial support. I would submit to you that you need to ask yourself right now, what the hell is my money going to if they're doing stuff like kicking Erik Mortensen out of their caucus? You need to really think about that kind of thing going forward.
Yes. Well, and David right here in the comment section makes a point that we've made for years. And he just says, and Minnesota Republicans wonder why I no longer support them. I mean, this is what happens here. When people like Steve Drazkowski, when people like Tim Miller and Cal Barr, Jeremy Munson, when people like Kurt Doubt and Paul Gazelka and Jennifer Carnahan, when these people treat their own Republican voters, donors, door knockers, parade walkers, volunteers, when you treat the people who normally support you the most like they're the redheaded stepchild and you just slap them across the face like an abuser, when you do that, you know what happens? You lose them. They walk away. People like David who say, and Minnesota Republicans wonder why I no longer support them. They walk away. So at the end of it all, Steve Drazkowski and Kurt Doubt, you're not advancing whatever cause you claim to believe in at all. Instead, you're hemorrhaging supporters at a massive pace because you're tossing out the only people who are actually doing anything for the people that the people would care to get on board with and get behind.
Yeah, I told people for a long time now, just stop donating to parties. When you donate to a party, it goes to this giant bucket, and you have no idea where that money's going to go. It could go to support a terrible RINO for office. And I beg people, please, just if you donate to candidates that you really believe in and you want to get behind, that's what people should be doing. I would not donate to political parties.
Yeah.
So when people tell you, when these politicians tell you, I'm pro-gun, I'm this, I'm that, reach out to Minnesota Gun Rights. You can email us at info@minnesotagunrights.org. You can hit us up on Facebook Messenger. I'm sure they can reach out to you, Eric, and ask questions. And we'll tell you the truth. Because if I had $1 for every time a politician told a gun rights supporter, of course I support the 2A. I got a shotgun in my closet, and they all go out and get permits to carry, just so they can pull that permit out of their pocket and go, here's my permit to carry. It's proof that I'm pro-gun. The truth is, those are all props. Those are all props to gain support and to gain voters and things like that. Reach out to us. We'll tell you what those politicians won't tell you, and that is the truth. And it's because of the truth, Eric, that you're being attacked, that you're being betrayed, why the people are being betrayed, because, man, they don't like the truth. That's why the politicians have hated Minnesota gun rights for years on both sides of the aisle. We take great pride in it now. It's a staple. I mean, if you work in politics in Minnesota and both parties don't like you, you're a winner. You're somebody who can be trusted. And that's been the case for a long, long time now. And now, Eric, I guess you joined the ranks of trusted politicians in Minnesota. Because
that is the theme. Anybody who holds politicians accountable, they just try to discredit them, and they attack them. So I fully expect. I mean, it's going to be.
It's like your own very personal version of a Russian collusion hoax. I mean, this game is as old as they possibly get. I wanted to just take a minute then, though, on behalf of a lot of the people who are watching this video, maybe live right now or on the rebroadcast later, or when we email this out to our large and substantial list all across the state of Minnesota. Thanks, Eric, for doing the right thing, for not taking the easy road when you had the opportunity. There are very few politicians in today's day and age who are willing to take the political hits and to make those tough decisions when the easy road can be so appealing and so easy, because all you have to do is nothing. All you have to do is go silent. You don't have to do much of anything. You didn't. And for that, I think the state of Minnesota is far better off. And, from all of us watching now and watching the rebroadcast and down the road, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I'm just doing what I said I would do. My mission was to treat government the way government treats the people. And that is not a nice thing. Government does not treat us nicely. So no, that was my mission. It continues to be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if there's anything else we need to talk over here. Lisa says, I agree, Chris. Joe says, I'm proud of you, Eric. Our forefathers didn't go out with a bang. Without a bang. So that's what we have for right now, guys. We wanted you to know the truth about what's happened here. And, there are some dummies out there. I already see some people who don't like you, Eric, who are saying, oh, you can't get anything done. You can't, Mortensen can't do bing, bang, boom anymore because he's no longer. That's all bullshit. Yeah. That's all political. Go ahead, Chris.
It's political stupidity of the highest order. I mean, it means that you've had your head right up your ass for the last, 5 years, and you don't know anything.
It's absolutely true. I mean, again, we work in a lot of states. We work with a lot of legislators in a lot of states. And so far, none of the legislators who got major pro-gun bills passed in states like Iowa and Missouri and Wyoming, Ohio, and others that we work in, none of those legislators were liked by their caucus. None of them were speakers of the House or some sort of big time leadership, whatever. They were just the guys who went there with balls of steel and stood up there,
and the power of the grassroots all lined up.
Yes. Absolutely. The people saw the truth. They could see it when they heard it. They knew it was the truth. And they got behind those politicians, those legislators, those wonderful lawmakers, and they pushed those pro-gun bills all the way into law. Stand your ground, constitutional carry, Second Amendment Preservation Act. It's been a beautiful thing. Now, we've got an uphill battle in Minnesota so far. but Erik has positioned himself as the person who is introducing the pro-gun bills, who's got the balls of steel, and the people appreciate that, and they get behind that. And this idea now that because you don't have you're not in this caucus anymore, this idea that somehow makes you without power, it's a laughable joke.
Yeah, I mean, the only coalition that matters, and the most powerful coalition is the people across the state. And as long as they've got the information that they can remain active and hold people accountable, like you said, push their legislators in the right direction, that's how this can happen.
Amen.
So, yeah, you're right.
Amen. So I'm actually very excited. I'm more pumped about the future of gun rights in Minnesota and many other issues than I've ever been since I got involved in politics. We've never had somebody like you in office. I don't give praise to politicians. Anybody who knows Minnesota gun rights knows that what we do is crap on politicians because all we do is crap on the people. We tell the truth about them. We've never had, in all these years, anybody who is willing to do what you're doing. So I'm super excited about this going forward. I know the people are too. This is the best chance we've had in decades to advance the causes we believe in.
Awesome.
Amen. Preach it. The last thing I would say is, okay, so folks, chances are this is going to get litigated on social media all over for the next how many months and months and months. I'm asking you guys right now to bookmark the link of this video and slap it all over the social media universe. When you see people talking about this and offering up these fake excuses why the gelding caucus, the neutered Republican caucus, whatever they call themselves,
neutered House
when they go out there and try to excuse this away, to excuse away their cowardice, to excuse away their fear, their immobility, their refusal to move and fight for the things that we all care about, drop this link in those threads so that people can see. They can see the truth with their own eyes. They can hear the truth with their own ears, and they can know the truth. And so they don't have to be totally sidelined by the bullshit that they will undoubtedly encounter. So please bookmark this link, share it all over the place, share it on your own pages right now. As a matter of fact, you can click on your phone, click that blue share button, and let's spread the word. Like Ben just said, though, and I'm pointing, maybe he's up there like that.
There you go.
Like Ben just said, there's never been a better reason for optimism, because finally it's like getting the diagnosis from the doctor, right? Here's what's wrong with you. Here's what we're going to do to fix it. You cannot start getting better unless you know what is wrong. And that's exactly what's been happening here over the last, ever since he got elected. And then in the last couple of days here, the sickness has been identified.
Yes.
Now we can take steps to start pushing, like Ben was just talking about, like those other leaders in other states. We can all get now behind this effort and start pushing forward.
Yes.
So it's optimistic as heck.
There's a fight underway.
Yeah.
This is our opportunity when there is total peace amongst the politicians who are just screwing Minnesota. That is when we lose everything. That's why people went, oh, Donald Trump went to DC and just stirred everything all up. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. A fight was underway, and we made great strides in so many ways. Erik is in St. Paul. There's controversy. There's a fight underway, and that is our best opportunity to push forward the things that we love, the issues we believe in, the future of our state. If there was total peace in St. Paul, if there was unity amongst the politicians, right now, as it currently stands, it'd be a disaster for the people of Minnesota. So we love it. I know you guys love it. That's what we have for right now, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Erik, for everything you're doing in St. Paul. We appreciate it. We know the people appreciate it. Thank you for telling the truth, even when it made you lose friends or lose people who weren't really very good friends. thank you for doing that on behalf of our members, on behalf of us. And guys, we're going to have more information about this for sure. There's going to be more conversations. We're certain to be back in the near future with more videos.
Yeah, come on back again sometime, Eric. We like
anytime.
Hell yeah. Share this video with your family, your friends. Just press that button, stick it on your Facebook page. Maybe one of your buddies will click on it just because. Let's get this information out there. And I think we're going to sign off from there. So thank you all very much. Have a good night. Take care. We'll be back.
Thanks, guys.